there's a good dear friend of mine who is pregnant right now with a little girl. She has the like growth tracker apps and stuff. This week, one of the images on the growth tracker was that her baby is the size of a Barbie doll. And that just hit really hard for me because I was like, God, it just starts so early.
Hello.
Welcome
Or welcome back
to the Womanly Podcast,
where we embrace womanhood in its entirety.
From the hard and awkward conversations
to the silly and embarrassing moments.
An effort to reclaim and redefine what it means to be womanly in this crazy, wacky world. I'm Delana, the neutral one.
I'm Katie, the morbid one.
And I'm Madeline, the other one. And we're so excited that you've joined us today because there's room for you at our table.
So, grab your favorite drink and let's have a conversation.
What are y'all drinking tonight?
I'm drinking Olipop root beer. Delicious.
Yeah.
Supports
The best.
digestive health.
To our digestive health. Cheers. I have water. Boring, but
Very
good.
good. And, well, no, not anymore.
I was going to say, I also had a Olipop root beer, and then I tried a peach tea kombucha, and it was good. I'm just still not a big fan of the bucha taste.
I'm really trying to find a kombucha.
She ain't a
that
big
I
fan of the
like.
booch.
If I had tried, I think if I drank like 2 of those in a row, I'd probably get over the kombucha taste.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just keep trying it, but we'll find one.
It's
we'll
not
find
the
one.
only way to get
Eventually we'll find one.
probiotics, so it's
Right,
fine if you never
right.
do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you drinking?
I have Starbucks iced coffee, and then I put my own unsweetened vanilla nut pods creamer in it because it's the only creamer I can have.
Not for long. Hopefully.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully
Hopefully.
not for long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you drinking?
Hi.
Surprise of surprises. We've got a guest tonight.
We have a fourth drink to talk about.
We have several drinks
Yes,
for me
we
to
do.
talk about. I am also drinking an Olipop classic root beer, sparkling tonic. Very good. I'm almost done with it. I'm also drinking the famed peach tea probiotic kombucha, the one that Madeline did not like, so I took.
Pawned off onto you.
Yeah.
She was a willing receiver.
Yes.
Mhm.
She was like, I volunteer as tribute.
I was like, if you don't like it, I'll take it. And then she gave me these eyes that I was like,
yeah.
if I don't give it to her right now, she might bite me.
Yeah, I was fully prepared, and I am rabid, so you should.
Okay,
Be
then
scared.
I behaved in the proper manner at that moment. Glad to know my survival instincts.
Yes. Your survival
Working.
instincts, they read that situation very well.
It's just a joy to have an anxiety
Yeah.
disorder that gets you through life, you know.
It's like protection.
It
you know?
is.
It is.
That's it.
It
helped me
is.
out. It keeps me alive. So we're
My
good.
my therapist told me that the other night. She said it's to protect your body.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's
And
exactly
I was
what
like,
it is.
okay, that's a good way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah.
You're not always in danger when it's doing its thing. That's the issue.
Yeah.
It doesn't really get its cues, you know, in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That like, hey, I'm safe
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
but you're,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you can
That's not
always,
understandable.
you can always be safer is the thing.
Yes.
According
that's
to your disorder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
According to your disordered thinking, you can always be safer.
Yeah.
Well, hi.
Hi. Yeah. Tell us
Uh,
about yourself. What are
uh,
you doing here?
Who do you think you
yes.
are, and why are you here?
There you go. Yeah. Who do you think you
well,
are?
So my name's Megan. I also grew up in DFW, like you lovely ladies.
Nice.
And I am a friend of Katie's. Our husbands are also friends. They're complete nerds.
Mhm.
So they do nerd stuff together. Love you, babe.
Friendship.
And me and Katie just happen to get along really well because she's super nice and super cool.
Oh, you're super nice and super cool.
Just well, I'm here for the ride.
Yeah. We're really excited.
Yay!
Very excited to have you. So thank you for coming on
Thank you.
What is going to be quite a topic. But before that,
Yeah.
I think Delana has a check-in question for us.
Yes, so every week we like to check in with each other, but in a more creative way, rather
Mhm.
than just asking how you are.
Yeah.
You know? So
Because that gets boring
it
after a while,
does.
you know?
yeah, and
It's
sometimes
just
you
like a
don't.
formality.
You don't know how to answer it sometimes because it's such a formality, you know,
Mhm.
that you're just kind of like,
You
"I'm
got like your
good."
knee-jerk reactions
Yeah.
and answers. Yeah.
So, what was your favorite moment thus far this week? It's fun that we're talking about this on a Friday because usually it's Monday and we're like, oh, you mean
This week,
so-
you mean
yeah,
it's like
today?
12 hours since I woke up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll
however,
go first. My favorite moment of this week was today when Bryce and I got up. We went to coffee
we went to La La Land Cafe in
Mhm.
Dallas. And then we went to get a little pedicure. And it was really cute. It was like in this little old house.
Oh,
And it was a great pedicure. And then we went to lunch.
nice.
And then that was my favorite time of the week. Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Mine seems kind of sad. I've had tamales 2 days in a row for lunch and then sushi 2 days in a row for dinner. So that's my best part of the week because I feel like I'm really
Amazing.
living my dream life right now.
So
Oh,
confident.
yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
And last night's sushi was not just any sushi. Like tonight I tried a new place, but last night I got to go back to my old place from the town I used to live in before I moved earlier this year. So I got to revisit an old favorite and get my usual order. Actually, you know
I'm
what?
jelly.
The highlight in the midst of all of that is that last night, whenever I went to my old favorite place, which is still my current favorite place, they gave me an extra roll for free. Yeah. I think that's the real highlight.
That is
And it was really good. I'll try anything that they give me because it's
Mm.
just so good. And it was really, really tasty. So
I think that my best moment this week was when my husband texted me that he got a raise.
oh, that's awesome.
And then he took me out to Texas Roadhouse.
Nice.
And I ate my weight in Texas Roadhouse rolls.
Which is
and-
as
expected.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it was just like a good, this was a good week. I had
Yeah.
a really good week overall. I mean,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
definitely the highlight, but I was like, I haven't had any bad days this week.
I'm really
Which-
disappointed you
Yeah.
didn't say that this was the highlight of your week.
Oh,
but
wait,
that's-
this? You guys
Just kidding. That's awesome. I'm excited for you guys. What about you, Delana?
My favorite. So my week started off really awful. I went into ketosis, and the diet that my doctor has me on, constantly my body's like, I want to go into ketosis because it's very similar to keto diet, and it's awful. It feels like you have the flu every time you're going into ketosis.
Mhm.
I was like sitting there with shivers, and I was like, what's wrong with me? And then I took the ketones test, found out I was in ketosis, and I was like, this, you know? And so all week I was like, I have a doctor's appointment on Wednesday already. I can't wait. Go to my doctor's appointment. And she's like, I think you only have about a week left of this crazy diet and regimen that you're on
Yes.
to heal. But my next appointment with her isn't for 3 weeks, so I won't know until then. So technically I'll be on it for 3 weeks still.
Yeah.
But it was very good news to hear that, like, oh my gosh, this is actually coming to an end.
For sure.
Because
Yeah.
it's just been, I feel like my life has been so chaotic ever since I've been on the diet, because it's been like ketosis, and then first it's like just getting your head wrapped around all of it, and then getting your routines in place, and then your body goes into ketosis and keeps wanting to go back into
You've
ketosis.
been fighting that for weeks.
And
yeah.
like at the beginning, the extreme, it's just like, oh, so hard. Healing is so friggin' hard, guys.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for this, but yeah, that was my long-winded highlight of my week, is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
that
Good
is
news
coming
from
in, like,
doctors is so nice.
hopefully 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and things could take a turn. Nothing's for sure. You know, it could like bacteria could multiply and whatever, and then it could be like, got a few more weeks left, but we're at least not looking at 6 months
Yeah.
of this. So
Yeah.
that's
That's
Good.
always nice.
closer to
Good,
the
good.
3-month mark.
Yeah.
So.
Well, speaking of eating and food and stuff, this is
Oh,
going to be the
yes.
worst segue on the planet.
No, it was going pretty good. It was
What
going
we're
pretty good.
talking about tonight
Yeah.
is we're going to talk about diet culture and beauty standards and all those really, really fun conversations.
Mm-hmm. Really lighthearted,
Yeah.
just like full of levity.
This is a
Yes.
comment. No, just kidding.
Comedy
So
podcast.
we'll take a good couple of deep breaths before we get into this, because I know that this is going to be difficult.
Shoot, I don't have my Zen garden.
Oh no, that's important. But
it's up there.
consider this your and if we have to plug this in with a specific trigger warning, we can, but consider this your warning that we'll probably get into some hard topics about, disordered eating and just overall issues with body image and things like that. So if that's something that might be detrimental to you where you're at currently, then I would encourage you to just turn this off and maybe go back to listen to one of our other episodes or listen to another podcast. But don't stick around to hang out with us and interrupt your peace. We're not worth it. So
Yes.
yeah, but with that, let's jump into it. All right, so I guess what we can do to start is just kind of talk briefly about what we think of when we hear diet culture, beauty standards, body image, those words, just to kind of give like a baseline of what each of us understand that to mean before we go into the deeper discussion. That's a loaded question. I understand it's not as easy as I made it sound. But
Whenever I think of diet culture, I think of counting calories and restriction.
yeah, restriction for sure.
And then whenever I hear of beauty standards, I immediately just think of all the negative things that people say about the Kardashians. That's it. That's where my mind goes first.
What about body image?
Body image, I just think of what's it called whenever you see yourself as different from what you actually are.
Dysmorphia.
Yeah, body
Yeah.
dysmorphia. That's what
Yeah.
that's what I think of.
I'm on diet culture. Yeah, it's for me. It's very restrictive. Like, and obviously, no. Actually, I was going to go a different direction. No, diet culture is all about restricting something that you shouldn't have to restrict. In a way that is not sustainable and is not going to get you the results that you really want. But usually, it's related to some sort of weight loss. There's a lot more I could say about that. We will. But, and then, beauty standards. I just think of all the different standards, and they consistently change over the years. There's never one specific thing that's desirable, and no single person can ever get it right. And you put a group of, 4 women in a room, and none of us are ever going to get it. But we're all beautiful, so yeah, beauty standards it's unattainable. It's never the same. There's never a clear direction, and most of the time it's dictated by men. And then body image, just the way that you view yourself and the relationship that you have with your body and attitude that you have about it. I think that's what I think of when I hear body image.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I hear the phrase diet culture, I instantly think about like every fad diet or every like diet system, like Weight Watchers or like South Beach or whatever.
Noom. Isn't Noom one now?
Yeah, Noom.
Yeah.
It's like some fakey thing. It's like there's a psychological aspect, and it's like, okay, but it's still just counting calories and like saying you're not supposed to eat carbs. It's like that's all it is. And whenever I hear the phrase beauty standards, I instantly think of Instagram, Instagram influencers and, Instagram models. And I think of like regular models, runway models.
Traditional.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I hear the phrase body image, I also think of body dysmorphia because, I think to a certain extent, we all kind of have preconceived notions in our head about what we think we look like because you've never actually really seen yourself,
right?
Only in the mirror and then in pictures,
and it's always skewed.
It's always skewed.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I have gone through my little bouts of having severe body dysmorphia to having a little bit, and to me, it's like you feel like you're in a fun house mirror where it's like, how it makes you all wiggly, but it's like, but it's just the parts of you that don't want to be wiggly that are now wiggly. And think especially as women, we are always hyper analyzing ourselves. And so we're always like, wait, no, I have a pimple. Oh no, wait, like my breasts look weird or like something like that. So it's like, we're always like, why isn't this correct? And it's like, well, there's no correct way to look.
No correct.
But it's, especially, going from girlhood to adolescence to womanhood. It's like your body changes so much in that time. And,
even just in womanhood, that whole span of what womanhood is, from I don't know what you would classify it as 18. I
Yeah.
still like 18 for a lot of people is still kind of young, but
Mhm.
say your mid 20s to when you're in your 80s, like
Yeah.
the change that happens then
It's
too
like
is so
having
vast.
children and then going
Mhm.
through menopause, and it's just like it's a crapshoot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but so that's what I think of.
Yeah, when I think of body image, the ideal body image that by the world's standards, yeah, I just think of like really like a really skinny woman. I don't know, like, yeah, the Kardashians come to mind, of course. Or yeah, runway models, Instagram models, all of that. When I think of beauty standards, the first thing that comes to mind, YouTubers that do makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that makes sense.
I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's just what I think of is like that's the standard of beauty.
Yeah.
Like,
Because they're in a
YouTubers-
way, some of them are contributing to setting those trends
right.
in a way. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and
for
like
sure.
Or
a
predicting
lot of
them.
a lot of the things, like techniques and things that they teach, is like almost
Sculpting.
teaching everyone to get a uniform look.
Yeah.
Like we're
Yeah.
all going to
Right.
look the same.
Mhm.
Right,
you know, so-
exactly. Like, this is what we need to look like to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I did it.
I know.
She's
I
a
know you
culprit.
did. Oh my goodness. And then when I think of diet culture, I just think it's sad. I think it's really sad that we've set these standards on all of the women in the whole wide world, and we've set this standard of like skinny is beautiful. You know what I was thinking earlier?
Mhm.
Like, what if we were to reverse that? Like, or what was I trying to think of earlier? I was like, if you reversed and said, you don't have to be skinny to be beautiful.
Mhm.
What if we said, you don't have to be fat to be beautiful? Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, what
Yeah.
if we reversed that?
Mhm.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
That quote unquote
Mhm.
skinny quote unquote in the middle, like,
They're just adjectives.
they're just adjectives.
Mhm.
They're not like a moral failing.
No one's gonna say the latter because that's unthinkable to think that big is beautiful and skinny
Oh, I
is,
see what you're saying.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we've been conditioned and trained to see someone who's really slender and think, wow, that's the standard that
Mhm.
I want to live up to. We might not look at like bigger people and think, I want to be like that. And I just think it's
Yeah.
very, very hard and sad.
There is a side of it, though, that we are recently trying to do the opposite and say
Right.
big is beautiful, which big
Yes.
is beautiful, small is beautiful, wiggly is
Everything's
beautiful.
beautiful.
Wiggly is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Curvy's
But
beautiful.
in the midst of trying to do the opposite narrative, there are a lot of women who are naturally very slender, who don't have
Mhm.
curves,
right.
who feel as though like they feel how bigger women have felt for many years
Mhm.
because they can't
Yeah.
fit that narrative for whatever
Right.
reason, genetics, you know.
And everyone's saying like, you know, they don't have a real body.
Yeah.
You know, when
or they're not healthy, or you
Yeah.
know, and there's a lot of things to that. So I think it's important to kind of pick apart each of the narratives and say, you know, how is this detrimental to other women who don't necessarily fit this image? But then also just recognize that it doesn't have to be a specific narrative. It can just be like healthy is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like to me,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, is it's just healthy is beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is, because if you are
And health-
healthy in the
yeah.
inside, you're going to look healthy. Beauty is from the inside. We've talked about that all our lives, is our moms have told us like beauty is from the inside. Health is from the inside.
Mhm.
What you're putting into your body and what you are
believing inside yourself.
believing inside yourself is going to shine through that. And you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Because that's so true. That
healthy
we need
looks
to
different on everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Everybody has different
Yeah.
needs.
I feel like going through everything that I've gone through the past couple months, I've realized, like, it has now become so apparent to me, first of all, how freaking obsessed I was with my body weight,
Right.
you know,
Mhm.
because I lost a lot of weight during all of this, that more weight than I wanted to lose. In fact, at the time that I started losing this, I didn't even want to lose weight.
Right.
I was actually looking to technically gain pounds and before I started this diet, I was looking to gain pounds because I wanted to gain muscle.
Right.
So I was like training and stuff like that, and I wanted to actually technically gain weight during this time. It's taken me back further, and it's going to take me longer to get to where I want to go. But I realize now, it was like whenever I lost the first 10 pounds that I lost, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to speak to my body that way ever again. Because like, it was like, now I saw my body as something that was its own thing.
Mhm.
And it was doing everything that it could to support me and fight for me and keep me happy and healthy and alive, you know? And, I realized, that's what made me realize how mean I was to myself and my body in particular, and telling my body that, like, telling myself that I'm not worthy to do things or am as good as somebody else because I don't have a perfectly flat stomach or whatever. But then also just being so like hating, like literally like hating your body because it doesn't look a certain way, which now just sounds like so ridiculous to me, honestly. I'm like, really? That's what we get hung up on? That's it? You know, is how much weight we do or do not carry.
Yeah.
And on top of all of that, so I had that realization. I was like, I'm never ever going to, like, my body, I appreciate my body so much now, you know, and no, not even because of how it looks. I don't even care how it looks almost anymore, you know, in that, like, anything that I do for my body now is just like fun if I change anything. And I'm never going to do anything out of hatred towards my body, and I'm not going to speak to it anyway. But also during all of this, how many women, especially older women, that have told me that I look so good now, has like literally almost gawking over the way that how skinny I am, has made me feel so gross, because I'm like, I'm not skinny because I'm well. I'm skinny because I'm not well. I'm trying to get well, you know? And it's like I've had such a big mindset shift in all of this, and it's made me, which is why I say, like, I'm so actually thankful for this journey, because I didn't realize how mean I was to myself and my body, and how much I actually did hate my body, even though I wasn't consciously aware of it at the time. You know, you just think that, like, you think how you think, you know, and that's it.
Right.
And then after all of this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I realize now how obsessed everyone, including myself, was and is about literally just how much weight you do or don't carry. And it sounds just heinous to me now.
Yeah. I've gained quite a bit of weight in the last 5 years or so of my life. We recently had our 10-year high school reunion, and going into it, like, I haven't seen all these people in a little while, and going into it, I was like, well, what are people going to think when they see me? And I did kind of like sit in that. I've never really been the kind of person that has been like hated my body. In fact, and I'll get into it, I've kind of like worn my weight as a security blanket in a lot of ways for different reasons. So I've never hated my body, but I recognize that people who see me where I'm at now, they are going to have certain opinions about the way I look and make judgments based on how I look and not get it right. Their judgments will never be right as to why I look the way I look, or where I'm at and how I got there and all of that. But then as I got closer, I was like, you know what? Like, this is just where I'm at. And going into it, if they think whatever they want to think, whatever, you know, I fully understand my journey as to how I got here and why I got here. And in my relationship with it and where I'm going in the future and all of that, what I'm trying to do. And that's what matters most, is that I see those things and I'm aware and knowledgeable about those things.
Yeah.
That nobody else's opinion really matters. And of course, I say that knowing full well that like only 70% of myself truly believes that. But I think just kind of getting to the point where you can try to remind yourself of that, even if you have to do it frequently and deliberately. It's just a better mindset to be in, because at the end of the day, other people's opinions and judgments on where you're at don't matter. It's about the truth of how you got there and what you're doing with it and what you're doing about it, and your relationship with your own body that matters.
Yeah.
I wanted to piggyback off of something you were talking about, which was that you think it's so, like, you know, like you described it as heinous. Like, why are we putting so much stock in how much, like the number on the scale, like how much literal mass we are carrying? It's a stupid idea to put so much stock in it. But, we're all kind of taught to like, care about it from such a young age. And I was thinking when you were talking about that, about this new thing about body neutrality, where it's not really about like, you don't need to like love the way you look, but you shouldn't hate yourself either.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really powerful thing, because how much you weigh is literally just the force that your body exerts
On
like
the planet.
on the planet.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It has nothing to do with, like I said earlier, it's not a moral failing if you lose weight or gain weight. And you mentioned, you've been like sick and you lost weight because you had to be on this diet because you are trying to be not sick anymore. And I've had that experience as well, where I've dropped weight quite quickly, and everyone, and especially older women, oh my gosh, you look amazing.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Wow, I need to do that. And I'm
You're
like,
thanks, I'm dying.
I'm like, yeah,
Right.
actually I'm quite sick.
Yes.
So, I had a specific experience with, when I was 19, I basically, after I graduated high school, I fell into the big depression.
The big D.
I like that you call it that.
Yeah.
Mine happened in high school as well.
Yeah.
15.
It's like, cause I was like, I spent all of high school, I was in theater. So I was like very like, I was always like busy and involved and stuff. And then when I didn't have like stuff to do, I was like, oh, I'm worthless.
Then you had time for your depression.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Yeah. And I made time for my depression. And so my weight fluctuated a lot. I would because I would literally go days without eating. Or I would like eat 2 pieces of bread and I'd be like, that's
Yeah.
it for the day. You know what I mean? And that's awful and terrible. Like, that will kill you eventually. But there was a period I went through where it was the opposite. I was like binge eating, which isn't healthy either, because first of all, it's not like nutritious food. It's like Cheetos and
Ice
like,
cream.
it's
really
like not
calorie dense.
yeah. And it's like, it's, and I wasn't doing anything, you know what I mean? Like I was just like basically laying in bed being depressed. And I went to, my gynecologist, because I am a healthy woman. And
go get your pap smears, ladies.
God, please.
Yes.
Oh my God. If you do nothing else, get a pap smear.
Mine came back normal.
Woohoo!
Yes. Good job. But I went there and I don't want to say numbers, because like I feel like that's
That's
but
fine.
she was like basically just like, oh well, your BMI is technically in the obese like.
Okay, screw BMI, by the way.
BMI means nothing.
No.
Yeah.
They've proven time and time and again that BMI doesn't mean anything.
No, but why do we keep it around? Because it makes us feel horrible.
Because it makes us feel like crap.
Yep.
And so when I went to this gynecologist, she was like, well, technically you're in the obese category. And I was like, yes, I can see that. And then I told her, I had never told anybody. I was like, I'm depressed. And, I feel really terrible all the time.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, maybe you should lose weight and you would feel better.
Oh my
A
God.
doctor
Wow.
said that to me.
Oh
Maybe you
my
should lose. She was like, oh,
God.
you're also really pale. So I can tell you don't go outside.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
Yeah, maybe you should take some vitamin D,
Wow.
and that will help cure your depression.
and I was like,
don't scream.
Yeah.
Right now.
You
I
are
know.
getting so heated. She's
That's
heated
like-
as a sun right
Yeah.
now.
literal worst response ever.
It's
Like,
like
way to not get down to the root of the issue
not
at all.
Well, and here's the one thing I want to say about that, because whenever I hear that, I hear a woman who's been broken by the society that she would perpetuate the exact same ideals on another woman
A doctor.
that she was taught, that she believes. If she's telling you that, what on earth is going on in her heart
exactly
about herself? And it's just heartbreaking that we do that to ourselves and we do that to others.
Yeah.
Guys, I had a comment said to me the other day by somebody.
Who? I'll kill them.
Already.
She doesn't even know.
Yeah, she doesn't
I don't
even need to know.
Even if it was positive, I'm the only one allowed to give you compliments. These three are the only one. Maybe Bryce. Maybe.
I will not say who.
We're very protective.
But I'm sitting there and I'm telling her, about my new job and how I'm meal prepping and what I'm prepping. I was like, I'm eating protein. I'm eating lentils. I'm getting the grains. I'm getting the greens. Like, I want to, have healthy meals prepared for my work week. And she goes, "Oh, wow, good for you." She goes, "At least you're going to get really skinny."
Holy crap.
'Cause
Are
that's the
you
goal.
kidding me?
And I was like, "What? How are we still saying these comments to people?"
Yeah.
Like, that was not my goal. My goal is to be
Yeah.
healthy. Why couldn't your response have been like, "Oh, wow, you're going to be so healthy.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
going to be living your best life.
You're going to feel so good. Yeah.
You're going to feel so good.
Yeah.
You're going to have so much energy. You're going to have, so much mental clarity and like space to do your job
No, that
good."
doesn't matter, Katie. You're
I
going to be
know.
skinny.
Exactly.
Isn't that great?
And
Because
that's what'll make you feel good and feel worthy, is to be skinny.
Because the
And
only
so-
thing in this world that other people can value in you are the things they see, not the things that you are experiencing as a human being.
And so I
Snaps
was
for that.
like, my reaction was like, "Yeah, girl." And then
Yeah.
I immediately was just like,
Disgusting.
"Wow." Like,
Yeah.
You, like,
what a-
cringed on the inside.
like I
Yeah.
cringed
Yeah.
so hard I wanted to like walk away, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
It was just very sad. And it was sad, my response.
Mm.
My response was, "Oh yeah."
Just like just a knee-jerk reaction. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not even my goal.
I don't really know how to say this, but like,
Just say it.
thank you. I will. I have resistance whenever I hear language like "this is what we were taught," "this is what," stuff like that, because it was a collective societal effort, basically. Because whenever I hear language like that, I think of like I feel like it paints a picture that there's like somebody telling us to do this, when in reality it's a culture that we as a society built around ourselves.
Yeah.
And now we all are realizing the issue. Well, some of us are
Hopefully.
realizing the
Right.
issue.
Yeah.
And are
I-
trying to have healthy views of those things.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, and I agree with a lot of what you said, but on a more nuanced scale, I think we learned so much from the women in our lives
Mhm.
that to an extent you are taught.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you have a mother that you've grown up close to,
Yeah.
she has such an influential role in how you see and interact with and speak to your own self
Mhm.
about your body.
Yeah.
And depending on how that looks, it's going to have a drastic effect on your life.
Yeah.
And so whenever I think of like how you're taught, I don't just think of like a grand scale, this is how,
like the man is telling you.
this is the man telling you, or this is how society is. Now I'm talking about like on a more like nuanced level, that you have individuals in your life, and
like
it
the
starts
direct
for
people.
women
Okay.
so young. There's a good dear friend of mine who is pregnant right now with a little girl. She has the like growth tracker apps and stuff. This week, one of the images on the growth tracker was that her baby is the size of a Barbie doll. And that just hit really hard for me, because I was like, God, it just starts so early. And of course, like that's, it's kind of a goofy example, but it's like it does. Whenever you're a young girl and you're playing with these you know, these dolls and stuff,
Mhm.
and like baby dolls are obviously a different story altogether
Yeah.
because they're just creepy. But when you're playing with like, we had Betty Spaghetti and Polly Pocket, and like nobody's going to be as small as Polly Pocket. And then, you know,
Yeah.
like Barbie dolls and stuff like that. It just starts so young. And so sure, it's a societal thing that you can be like frustrated because as an old adult, you kind of see how you participate in that. But as a child, you're a victim.
Yeah.
And so I think those things, when you're so impressionable that you literally are taught, and you have no, like at that point, you're not attracted to anything. You're not participating in anything. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where my brain goes whenever I say like we've been taught in a certain way, because as children, as literally children, women, girls are taught these things. They're trained these things. They are brought up believing these things. And I don't think women as adults would be by and large contributing to the perpetuation of those ideals if it didn't start so young.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of where my brain goes with it. I do feel resistance to it too, because I would much rather that not be words that would come out of my mouth or anybody's that were taught these things. But at the same time, that's just a reality of it. And
So it's more like generation teaching generation.
yeah.
Even if our mothers or, you know, our fathers even are trying to not say negative things about themselves, or they're trying to, you know, they want you to think positively about yourself. Everything, like you said, it's really nuanced, and it's like it all kind of, you know, monkey see, monkey do. You know, if I
see it,
if I see my mom, you know, she's giving herself a smaller portion than she's giving to me and my dad, or she's like, she says, okay, well, I can only have one piece of cake because I need to watch my figure, you know, which is like a very old fashioned statement, but is something that I still hear.
Yeah.
I saw a TikTok yesterday, which like, cause I'm always on TikTok. It was a study about what do parents Google about their children? Like what do parents Google?
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
And I don't remember what the exact statistic was, so I'm not going to misquote it, but it is way more likely for a parent to Google, is my daughter obese, than is my son obese? Even though,
Oh my god.
even though technically, if we're using BMI, which BMI means nothing, but if we're going by that scale,
it's the measure we're given.
it's the measure we're given.
Yeah.
Boys are actually more likely to experience childhood obesity than girls are.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that because, you know, I've had discussions with men about, you know, diet culture and things like that. And it affects every person, regardless of gender, race. It affects every single person. But I think it's something specifically to do with women, because we're not only scrutinizing ourselves, we know that we're being scrutinized in a way that men are just not. It's probably part the social media thing where we're just seeing these beautiful bodies that aren't real. They're CGI, they're photoshopped all the time, and we're like, well, why don't I look like that? It's like, well, because they don't look like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's because it's not real.
You see a lot of women actually who are like fitness influencers and stuff like that, who will pose their bodies in different ways, and like this is and they'll put it side by side so that it can show like, yes, I look like this in this moment at this particular pose,
But I also
look like this, and this is actually what I look like 98% of the time. And I love seeing things like that because you know, it's just like, oh, the rolls in your stomach whenever you're like hunched over, your body's doing the normal things that bodies do, instead of it looking like perfectly poised and you know, whatever all the time. So I do think that in the realm of this, that's one thing that social media has provided a platform for that is doing good in the midst of all of this.
Yeah. I actually took, when I was in high school, I took a very awesome food science class where most of what we did was cooking. But I mean, we learned about how the body converts calories in food into energy for your body. And it really honestly shifted my, you know, because as someone who grew up in the age of social media, thinking that foods have, you know, like a moral rightness, that pizza is bad, but salad is good, you know? And it's like, no, they are the same thing. That's just like, you know, the salad has X amount of calories and will give you this amount of energy. And the pizza has this amount of calories and will give you this amount of energy. And it's not anything different. And it's just what your body requires. You know, this whole idea that, you know, to be in you have to be in a caloric deficit. It's like, but that's not letting my body tell me what I need.
Yeah. And it's not just about calories too. Whenever it all comes down to it, there's a lot of other things, because I understand the point you're trying to make, but a salad and pizza are not the same.
Well,
as far as calories go, they are, especially if you get a salad from Chick-fil-A, because they're like 800 calories. I'm like, I'm going to have a chicken salad and the chicken sandwich instead because it tastes better. And it's less just kidding.
Yeah.
No, so I understand what you're saying for sure. I think that's why intuitive eating to me is like, of everything that could possibly come out of the mouth of anybody who talks about like health and dieting and anything like that, like intuitive eating is something that I can really get behind. And even to an extent, I can partially get behind intermittent fasting too. Because, because those two things to me, like as long as you're the kind of person who's going to interact with that healthfully, and you know yourself, as long as you're going to interact with those things healthfully, the nice thing about those things is that it's entirely in your control. It's not dictated by somebody else on the other side of a screen or on the other side of the world telling you exactly what you need to eat to lose weight, because Delana and I could eat the exact same thing every day and look totally different, and we probably would. But, you know, it's all about learning what works for you, understanding what your body needs. I naturally am very deficient in magnesium and iron. I take supplements for those things, but I also try to make sure I eat things that are rich in that and understand like the relationship of eating like mushrooms because they have copper in them, and eating something that has copper helps your body retain iron and all of that. So there's so many things that go into it that is honestly fascinating to learn about. But whenever you just try to make it as like black and white as eating 1,000 calories a day to lose weight, you're not taking care of yourself as much as anybody wants you to think you are. You're not taking care of yourself. No matter how skinny you look because of it, you're not taking care of yourself. And I just wish that was the narrative, that it was all about like, this is what you do to take care of yourself. This is how you cook vegetables so they're really, really delicious and that you enjoy them. Because in order to like enjoy and have a healthy relationship with your food and your body, you have to know the full picture. And diet culture doesn't give you the full picture at all.
Not at all.
I love that we're talking about like how it's all about like your approach to, because all the stuff can look the same. You know, two people can do intermittent fasting, for example. One person's doing it out of hate for their body. One person's doing it out of love for their body. And it's really funny that we're talking about this because I had something perfect timing for this to happen today because I posted on my Instagram stories. I'll read it to you guys.
You did. That's right.
I said, PSA, I'm not the person you want around if you want encouragement to cheat on your diet or goal of any sort. I'm the friend that will be like, do not do it. You can stick to your goal. You can. Because I've been in a room full of people telling me to go cheat on my goal because it was trendy to be like, you go girl, eat the ice cream, when I didn't want to. I wanted to stick to it. I really wished I had somebody there at that time to encourage me to do what I wanted to do. If you need somebody to tell you to eat the ice cream, don't at me. If you need someone to help you stay focused, at me anytime. I'm here for you, seriously. And then somebody responded to it and they said, but diets and diet culture are so harmful. And my response to them was, not if somebody is doing it for the right reasons. People can resist something out of love for themselves rather than out of self-harming hatred towards themselves. I think most people jump to the conclusion that someone needs to be encouraged to do it anyways, quote unquote, because most of them have only resisted out of hatred of themselves rather than love. Diet culture wants you to feel shamed, and shame should never be a motivator. To clarify, I never judge anyone for if they break their diet, because most of the time when that happens, it's because they were doing something extreme out of hatred of themselves. So I'm definitely not the person that's like, if you cheat on your goal, then I'm like, oh, shame, you shouldn't have tisk, shouldn't have done that. But I just think it's so interesting that like you can do calorie counting and, one person is doing it out of complete love for themselves, and it can be like, this is what I know my body needs.
Well-informed and knowledgeable.
Well-informed, knowledgeable, this is what I know my body needs and how I have figured out how to love my body right now, or at least to the best of my ability, and then one person can be looking like they're doing the exact same thing, but the whole time they're starving themselves. They're shaming themselves. They're telling themselves, they're going to bed at night telling, oh, I shouldn't have eat that, blah, 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 that type of stuff that I think is kind of hard to navigate sometimes.
Well, it's gets into the disordered eating, which I think is something that we need to talk about in the midst of all of this, because that's why I really wanted to make the clarification that these are things that can be good if you interact with them healthfully. And I said that you know who you are whenever you're doing these things. I don't know that everybody totally understands when they're doing these things in a poor way, in a harmful way, that they're poor and harmful. Other people might be able to point that out to them, and I hope that if you're in this spot that you'll seek advice on how to manage a loved one in your life who's going through that, and how to be like a good support for them to help them get well. But and we're not going to give any sort of advice on that, because none of us here are experts. We could just kind of speak to our own knowledge and experience with it. But it's one of those things that you can dip really fast. And I would just encourage you guys to know who you are, and be really cautious around these things. Like, we can say all day long that this is harmless, or that is harmless, or this is harmful and that is harmful. At the end of the day, the whole point is that we're all different and we all interact with it so differently. And having like one sort of blanket umbrella statement about anything it's not just like useless and inaccurate. It's contributing to the overall misinformation that surrounds any of these topics. So I did want to make that stipulation on the comment that I'd made, because at the end of the day, as much as you might think that you're doing things correctly, you may not be. And that's for, myself too.
Yeah. I think that it's really easy, especially when you're younger, to get caught up in what you think you should. It's like the rats in the thing chasing after the cheese, It's the same thing. We all want the serotonin and the dopamine from being loved and feeling like, oh, I did something good. And so like being a friend who is being encouraging is the best thing you can be. Because if you truly want your friend to be healthy, you will be honest with them. Like you will be like, what is it that you're trying to do? And then they tell you, and if it sounds like, okay, this does not sound, like disordered eating, then you can be like, I'll help you as much as I can. I'll try your, crazy shakes with you or something, like I can't drink like green juices or anything like that, because I can't do that. That's the one thing I can't like stomach is like green juices. But I've had friends who have been like, well, yeah, I'm not eating carbs anymore. And I'm like, not eating carbs anymore, Mama, you need those.
That's for your brain.
It's like you need that to make your brain do the thing that where it like does things.
Look, I get sometimes it's nice to like let your brain not do the thing, but you don't do it that way. That's called sleep. Even still, it may not shut up at that point, but still, it's a healthier way of getting it to happen.
Right. I don't want to say that like, oh, I am recovered from disordered eating, because I still have those thoughts. You never get rid of them. They're always kind of sitting there in the back of your mind like, oh, you shouldn't eat that because it's bad. And I'm like, shut up.
Mine started with what I now know to be, I had no idea back then that it was even a thing. And I even dismissed it back then because I was like, well, I'm not anorexic. I'm not bulimic. I'm just healthy. I was not healthy. I was dealing with something called orthorexia, which is basically where you start your diet slowly gets stricter and stricter and stricter, and you start working out more and more, and you're almost like starting to get to the line of like you're never really starving yourself, but you are just extremely limiting what you are letting yourself eat, and how much of that you're letting yourself. So it's like a different form of anorexia almost. But I dealt with that. And at that time in my life, I also now know, of course I didn't know then, that I genuinely thought, like I had actively the exact thought that if I'm thinner, if I'm skinnier and prettier, then I will have more friends. Like that is like how I will make friends, is if I'm skinny and pretty. And, I'm like, I can't believe that now, you know, how like sad and fragile of a state that was. And that was, there were things that played into that I dealt with, and I've shared about my immense battle with social anxiety. And so I think it was this thing that I grabbed onto that was like, I don't feel like I can control how I interact with people. Like, I don't know how to be a human and how to make friends. So my thing is that I'll just be skinny and pretty, and then people will like me because I'm skinny and pretty, you know, and that felt like my way in. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Okay, totally.
And so, yeah, it started with that. And then eventually, thank goodness, well, I can't say thank goodness actually, because then I fell into my big depression, and at 15, in which I went the opposite direction, and I started binging all the time, because I guess also you're very hormonal. There was probably a big drop in hormones during that time, you know, or change in hormones of some sort.
Even that age too.
That's
like the whole mix of things.
Right. It's so much. And I began eating a lot, and I just like always wanted to eat because I always wanted that dopamine hit or whatever you get from eating food.
Food is comfort.
Yeah. And because I was so extremely depressed, it was hard to get out of bed and all that stuff. And then I put on a lot of weight very quickly. The school actually pulled me in. It was towards the end of right before summer break. They pulled me in and they were like, "Hey, are you pregnant?" Because I was gaining weight so quickly. And so then I kind of just like continued. I gained weight really fast, and then I like plateaued for a while, and just kind of slowly put on weight. And that actually started to become my security blanket. Yeah. Because during that time is whenever eventually I started going to therapy, and I uncovered some forms of abuse that I had in the past that I didn't recognize as that kind of abuse. Yeah. And so me now carrying my weight was like my protection of not being seen as a sexual being. Yeah. And that took me a really long time. And even through our marriage, where like I would go through times where I'd feel really good, I'd start to lose weight, I'd build good habits and lose weight and stuff like that. And then I would like panic, and I would have like this internal panic that I didn't realize was happening, but all I knew was like all of a sudden I want to binge again, and I want to eat, and then I would gain the 5 or 10 pounds back, whatever I lost, you know, because I would have this internal panic of just kind of like, oh my God, like people are going to see me as potentially a sexual being again, because all the weight will be off and my waist will be smaller, and that's where it starts, right? And so it's been quite a roller coaster, and I've been extremely thankful for this journey to change so much of how I view myself now. Yeah. And it's been that and years of therapy and everything that I know, right? Everybody go to therapy. I'm like, everybody.
Even if you're happy and in the best spot of your entire life,
go to therapy.
Yes. Because you know what? Then you've got somebody who's going to hype you up even more.
Dude, they'll celebrate with you. It's the best.
You have to pay them to do it, but you know what?
But
it's so
it's
worth
the best.
it.
Yeah, it's the best. If you have access, please do. Please do.
Yes.
So, like, with your whole journey with this and everything, and even currently like living in the midst of all of it, I'd be really curious about how each of y'all are like learning to love your body every day, and the actions that y'all are taking to do that, as well as even just like any sort of encouragement that you would offer to anybody who's been in the same mindset or the same place as you when you were at your absolute worst.
Yeah. I would say for me, the steps I'm taking currently is health, just physical and mental health. I am trying to eat healthy, good, nutritious foods. I'm not restricting myself from the foods that I crave that are not so good for you, but I'm also, I'm going to therapy. I've been in therapy for 2 weeks now, and it's going really good, and I love her. I am going to the chiropractor. I'm going to be actually talking to someone about what's it called? The little needles.
Acupuncture.
Yeah.
The little needles.
I'm gonna be,
I like the little needles better.
I'm gonna be
It's
doing
cuter.
the little needles, hopefully. And I would just encourage anyone who's struggling with their image, like we all do. It's unavoidable. But I would just encourage you to do what you know is right for your body. Listen to your body. Don't restrict yourself from, eating that ice cream or having that burger. It's all, it's all good in, what's the word?
It's all about balance.
Yes.
Yeah. It's all
Yes.
good in moderation.
It's all good in moderation.
If there's anything I want, really anyone, but particularly people struggling with, disordered eating or just even like, like I want to diet, but I can't, or blah, blah, blah. Just anything where you're spending a lot of time thinking about the way that you look or what you're eating, is that, we will never see ourselves the way others see us, whether that's good or bad. And what I've been doing lately, and I literally just started this like this week, I've been thinking about when I say negative things to myself or I say negative things about myself, I'm not just talking to me now. I'm talking to 5-year-old me and 10-year-old me and
inner child work, guys.
Yeah.
Not the first time it's come up in this podcast.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I just recently watched the movie Booksmart. Everyone is always like, oh my gosh, Megan, you would love this. And I never watched it. And then I watched it.
It's a great movie.
It's like the best movie ever. I love it.
Great movie.
And the part where Molly, the Beanie Feldstein character, is like saying, oh, well, he won't like me because whatever. And then Amy slaps her and she's like, don't talk about my best friend like that. And it's true. I mean, you wouldn't talk about your best friend like that. I mean, you know what I mean? Like
you shouldn't talk about your best friend that way.
if you talk about your best friend like that, you are a bad friend. Yes. Sorry. I think I can say that.
blank.
And
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't care if I get canceled.
Yes.
If you talk bad about your best friend, you are not a good friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
But and I agree with Katie of just it's everything in moderation. It's all about balance and
So learning to love myself. I've definitely been a lot more intentional about what I eat. I have certainly a good many food sensitivities that I don't usually care to avoid because they are things like dairy and all the wonderful heavenly things on the planet. So
hard.
yeah, just learning to and these are lessons I've learned about myself, but in the midst of high seasons of anxiety issues and just stress and stuff like that, you kind of lose sight of. So I'm fortunate in this moment right now in time that I have some clarity, mental clarity, that I'm able to really start focusing in on that again and taking better care of myself as far as what I put into my stomach. And it's so funny because whenever you're somebody that has those sensitivities, and I think anybody at this table will understand, it takes like a week of avoiding that thing, and then you're like, God, I feel so great, and it's so much
Yeah.
easier to
Yeah.
avoid it.
Yeah.
But getting through that week,
Yeah.
so hard.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a way that I'm loving myself, and the way that I would encourage anybody is, I've already kind of said it, but just understand that your struggles go a lot deeper than just discipline issues, or just being lazy, or whatever it is that anybody else wants to assign to what you've got going on. And that if you need to do some inner work, go to therapy, whatever, to figure out what it is that's causing you to be a certain way, believe a certain way, treat yourself a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just in relation to the way you look and the way you feel about the way you look. That's in relation to anything.
Mm-hmm. My things have been two things that have helped me to kind of, I heard two things, both of them on Instagram, one of them by an ex-colleague of mine, or ex-coworker. I don't think they were technically a colleague, but an ex-coworker of mine who she is on her own health journey and has had a lot of struggles with her body that are similar to mine. And then one of them through a holistic doctor that I follow. But the first one that I heard was from her, and she said that your body is doing literally everything that it can to heal you, protect you, and keep you safe and happy and healthy. And you cannot, continue to just be in a cycle of like, oh my gosh, my body it doesn't work, and being frustrated with your body and stuff like that, because you are totally disregarding all of the work that it's doing to keep you happy, healthy, and safe and alive, and that like was a moment for me where I feel like my body love journey really started. I was like, oh my gosh, I now, it was like this moment where I was like, I realized that I have not been appreciating my body at all. I've only been frustrated with it, and whether that's how much weight I carry or the health issues that I'm dealing with, like it's just been like me telling myself and talking down to my body the entire time, rather than appreciate it for it doing everything that it knows to do,
right,
to keep you moving forward. And so now I'm so thankful to see my body as almost like a separate being. And I love that I sound so hippie-ish now. But it's just, I see it as like a separate being that I just need to like treat it as a sacred. You were talking about like your body is a temple. And I don't just see it as something that's sacred in and of itself, but I see it as something that like, it's my responsibility to treat it well.
Yeah, it deserves your care
and it
attention.
deserves my care because it gives everything to me that it can. So I need to give everything that I can to it.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
And so that's completely started to shift my perspective. And then after that, I heard this holistic doctor share that within the same vein, he said, you can't heal a body that you hate. And I was like, whoo, I get like chills every time I say it, because it's totally in that same vein, but really put succinctly, like you have to recognize the sanctity and the wisdom and consciousness that your body carries, and just become in tune with it. And I feel like that in and of itself helps you to love your body so much more, is just recognizing it as its own entity, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you guys so much for being so vulnerable. Let's kind of take it to a more of a light note. What are y'all looking forward to this week?
Next week, Stranger Things
yeah.
part 2 is coming out, and I'm very excited about that.
We should watch it together.
Yes, Stranger Things party.
Yes, you want to?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I'm so excited. Have you guys ever been on Tumblr before?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I wasn't really active on Tumblr, and then I was like, Stranger Things on
All
Tumblr,
in.
and I'm just like,
Oh, you're on Tumblr right now.
Oh,
I didn't
yes,
realize it
ma'am.
still existed. That's funny.
yeah, it's kind of come back a
Oh,
little
you're
bit.
a Tumblr girl.
Oh.
I'm a Twitter user, but I never
Yeah.
post anything. I just retweet things I think are funny.
I'm the exact
Yeah.
same way.
I'm like, I don't have any original funny thoughts. No. But yes, Stranger Things is my most excited.
That's
thing.
awesome. I'd forgotten, so thank you for reminding me. That's exciting.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, KB?
Mm-hmm. Therapy and Stranger Things.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good combination of things.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
What about you, Dee?
We have a big quarterly meeting on Monday, and I'm more so like not looking forward to that because there are like things that I wanted to wrap up this quarter that I haven't yet. So I'm not really telling you what I'm looking forward to. I'm telling you what's at the forefront of my mind. I am just a little bit dreading that. But usually at the end of the meeting, I feel good. I'm like, okay, yeah, we've got a good plan. So hopefully that'll happen this time too.
I'm
It
sure
will.
it will.
Good energy.
Yeah.
History says.
Energy.
Yeah,
What do
history
you-
says.
What are you looking forward to?
This is the first weekend I feel like in a while that I don't have a lot going on. I have a couple of meetings tomorrow, but otherwise they'll be done by like 1. And I think I'm just kind of looking forward to not having much else going on. And yeah, that will be really nice. I have a week from Monday, I have one of our biggest events of the year. So I feel really prepared for this one.
Good.
Yay.
For those of you who work in event management, you understand like your first duplicate is the most comfortable. Just makes you feel a lot more confident. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I get to kind of just enjoy the next 2 weekends and not worry too much about the event. So that would be really nice. It's a good feeling.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Megan.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you for
It's just a
having me.
Yeah.
Joy to have you
Amazing.
as being a part of the
Yes.
conversation, and
So fun.
you're always welcome back.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, now you can't stop me from coming back.
All right.
Good.
All right. Awesome. Well, drink your water and wear your sunscreen and be kind to yourself. Thanks so much for hanging out with us again for this week's episode of the Womanly Podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media to hang out with us in between episodes and see pieces of our conversations that we don't get to include in these episodes, plus all of our bloopery humanness. We're on Instagram at Womanly Pod and TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter at Womanly Podcast. We hope to hang out with you more there. Have a super womanly week.